Hey yo, it's your boy Ancient Albatross here again with the Cypher Unlimited crew. We got the usual suspects, Steven the Golden One, we got Spigs, aka, or, Anthony, aka Spigs, and we got Mr. Alpha Dean. So, Dean, what are we here for today?
Oh, well, today we're going to talk about flavoring characters by genre. And if that doesn't make sense to you, what we're talking about is no matter what character you get, you can actually, play that character in whatever genre you get. Since we've been doing GM Roulette and showing you how we adapt those characters. So today we have a mysterious speaker who makes prophecy. And that's the character that was actually a character that Anthony rolled but never got to play because he ended up running the game, starting us off in the game. So we just figured we'd take that character. Each of us are going to randomly roll on the GM Roulette genre table, and then we're going to show you how we would adapt that character to that particular genre so it would fit. Um, and this is going to, again, it's going to be totally random. We're going to figure out who starts us off. We're going to do it just like we do at GM Roulette. Everybody's going to roll a D20. So, fellas, let's roll your D20. Whoever gets the lowest number is going to be going first.
I got,
I got
a
a
15.
14.
I got a 1.
I guess Manoa's
We know
going
who's
first.
first.
What did you get, Dean?
I got a 15.
Oh, me and you got to re-roll. We both got 15s. I got 16 this time.
I got a 20.
Alright, so it'll be, what is it, Steven, Anthony, me, Dean.
All right.
Yep.
So
Yeah,
roll
it
a
works.
D20, Steven, and see what genre you getting.
And let's see.
I get thriller.
Oh, you rolled a 3. All right.
Yep, I rolled a 3. All right, so the mysterious speaker or house character, street preacher who makes prophecy. I'm going to go along with that. I'm glad I'm first to say this. Now, in Cypher, there is the 4 types. There's the warrior, the adept, the speaker, and the explorer. And if you look, it gives suggestions for what they could possibly be amongst multiple genres. For instance, the type for this character is technically street preacher, which takes the rules from the speaker class as its base abilities. So going on with that with the thriller is, I mean, to me, thriller makes it kind of easy. Everyone has seen, especially if you're in a bigger city like like New York City, Chicago, whatnot. There are the people that are preaching on the street corners. Say something like that. I mean, I was my family's originally from New Orleans. Whenever there's Mardi Gras, they have their own section down there, and so it just comes natural when you have somebody of this caliber because this guy is. I'm for a thriller, modern day thing. I imagine him as the homeless person with the sign that has doomsday is coming, kind of deal. Now the way that he's flavored is kind of look at his abilities. He was originally made for I think for a modern fantasy setting originally.
Mm-hmm.
So Enthrall, well, he's a speaker. He's a speaker class. He's a preacher. He's going to be able to attract a crowd of some sort. So his Enthrall just comes with, how well is he able to talk to everybody, attract them in. He's also got aggression. Now, some of these people, cops have cameras now. Just gonna say is they can elicit definitely some rage from people who don't have the similar beliefs. They're telling you what to believe. Who somebody like this knows how to push those buttons in anyone they come across. And luckily I'm a laid back person. Another friend of mine, I gave my New Orleans example. I had a friend of mine in college with me back then, where they were preaching to him over and over, and then even though he was Native American, all of a sudden they said, "Oh, we didn't bring our Spanish translator." Look, if you want to see about the aggression ability, just to give a real life example, he told them, "Don't worry, man, I don't speak a lick of it." But you can see like those kind of interactions could enrage certain people. That's where I see the aggression ability coming in. Now, for thriller, now understanding it's so that's the thing. It's kind of work for thriller. It really works in kind of naturally. But if I were to twist the thriller a little bit, let's say it's a spy thriller, Get Smart had a lot of people who were just looked normal on the street, and all of a sudden he's in a lock. We'll just say comedy. He's in a locker, but the person could be working for the CIA. He could have some other training other than just being a crazy person on the corner. No one, he's unassuming. So that's where I see more the abilities for understanding, where he can size somebody up and know exactly what to say. But with understanding, it's not just for what you're speaking. It's not just for interacting. It's any action you're able to take. So if he's, doing his act as a street preacher in order to follow to follow somebody down the street or whatnot, after observing them, he knows how to blend in better. He knows, through his spy training, he knows how to make his first attack count. I forget if understanding can work with an attack. But if it could, obviously any interaction you can, some kind of detective deal, spotting and whatnot, he gets an asset to his ability with understanding. And same with premonition, understanding people, being good with them, understanding that, getting a gut feeling about, this guy, these people that I'm following, that I got an idea about where they're going. I know who they are and who they work for just by, even though he's attracting a crowd or seeing a whole bunch of people going past, he can analyze and know who is it that I'm actually looking for, who's my target, through his spy training. And with that, and to me, that would make sense. That would make sense for some of his other abilities, such as being mysterious, his confounding ability. Even though he looks unassuming, you don't know what this guy kind of knows because of how mysterious he is. He pulls a skill out of thin air that he's able to do lock picking, shadowing somebody, knowing quantum physics. Who knows? That's a great thing about confounding. So other than that, I think all the skills make sense because he knows resisting interrogation would make sense for this kind of flavoring. The public speaking, persuading, stealth, initiative, perception, just to say them aloud. I believe that just about covers it, unless you guys think I missed something.
No, it sounds
No,
pretty good.
that's pretty good.
Pretty solid coverage of how this guy would work in a thriller.
And Anthony, give me a D20 roll.
I got 5.
You got Old West.
Oh, Wes. Okay, this is easy. Oh, I like to think it's easy. Let me think. His name is Simon Duveau. And he approaches the small town. And he's a traveling clergyman, preaching the word of God to all the heathens that
will listen.
And I picture Simon Duveau as not necessarily the crazy street preacher, but the more overzealot. He's, everything's a sin in his mind. And Simon travels from town to town, from every little town in the West, and trying to convert the coal miners, trying to convert the bootleggers, and he goes from town to town, and he forces Christianity down people's throats. And he's a quick talker. He uses enthrall to convince the housewives and the city, the town folk, that the word of God is the only law that people must follow. He travels through like Indian tribes trying to convert the heathens, and enthrall will work very well with that. And also, as someone that is preaching something that not necessarily is something that wants to be heard, aggression, he uses his words to twist and to stick that dagger in to make people do stuff that necessarily isn't what they want to do. And the aggression ability will work well that way. So someone will, you could have a scene where someone is questioning him, and he'll bring up stuff about what they're doing is a sin and that they're going to hell, and get them over angry and, out of their game. So I'm going to say that Simon is, he's an evil preacher in a sense. Since we've trying to flesh him out. Understanding is easy. Since he travels from town to town, he's been to a lot of different places, and he knows structure of these small out west towns, that he could see little things that a normal person wouldn't pick up because they're not as worldly as he is. So he'll notice the small things, like say, hey, I noticed that this one man is traveling with 3 horses. Did he steal that horse from someone? Why does he have an extra horse hitched to his wagon? So he could pick up small clues when others wouldn't necessarily notice that. And premonition is easy because he's asking God for these answers. He's asking God why, little Timmy fell in the well. What led to those facts? So that's really easy. His skills pretty much fit. Stealth is an interesting one because though he preaches the word of God, he has a tendency and a secret sin that he carries himself. His sin is the desire for flesh. He likes the women. He visits brothels for each town that has one. And a lot of the times he manages having to sneak out of these towns because he preaches one thing but follows another. So Mr. Dufault is maybe not necessarily the most honest preacher, but stealth is a skill that he uses quite often to sneak out of these towns, maybe after he took their money, or maybe after he
visited the brothel.
Visited the brothel, exactly.
Or someone's wife.
Someone's wife. And of course, like any preacher, public speaking. I also see on the sheet he has a mysterious arcane amulet. We're going to say that this is a cross that gives him an asset when dealing with people of let's say goodly ilk, people that are divine like him. And since he's sort of a dirty preacher or conniving preacher, it allows him to, when he visits goodly folk and real people of the cloth, because occasionally he's going to find a just preacher, this will give him an asset in dealing with them.
Makes sense.
I took it a little differently than Steven. I flavored it more according to how I would perceive the character and how I would play him.
Well, that's the whole point.
Yeah, it makes complete
You're
utter
Western,
sense.
I was Thriller.
All right. Al, you're up.
All right, let's see what I get here. I got 15 historical. So
Nice.
that's an interesting one, right? So with historical, there's a lot of different stories or whatever have you that could happen. For me right now, I'm thinking like revolutionary times historical, like the Revolutionary War in America or whatever have you. There's a lot of Native Americans, whatever have you, still in the countryside. So I'm picturing this mysterious speaker who makes prophecy as a Native American spiritual person, right? It just kind of fits. So his sort of spirituality comes from very similarly to like the preachers or whatever have you. These Native American files. I'm not a historical person. I'm sorry if I say anything that's over the line or whatever have you, but I know that they like to commune with nature. They take a lot of substances that sort of help with that. If I'm correct in this, I don't know, but
Peyote.
yeah, exactly. I was just gonna say that. So peyote would be one of this guy's. Let's call him runs with bears. Runs with bears.
Simon who runs with bears.
He he uses peyote and he communes with nature to try to get these the premonition, the understanding. Like he's been around so much that he can pick up on small things like tracking people, like the understanding thing. Like he can look at us like what's going on in nature or like what's happening in a certain location or with certain people, because he's been talking with so many people and been to so many places. He can pick up on these little tiny things and better understand what's going on. And again, with the premonition, again, he. I don't know how you take peyote. I don't know if you smoke it or eat it or whatever have you. Again, I don't know anything about peyote, but he would ingest that in whatever way, and that's how he communes with his gods or whatever have you that enlighten him on what he's trying to learn, which is how I would flavor the premonition. Everything else, like his enthrall, again, same thing. Like he's seen as someone of like these kind of people are usually revered in the tribes or whatever have you. So even if a visitor like a white man came, the fellow Native Americans would say, hey, if they could speak to each other, but whatever, they would say, hey, you might want to speak with Runs with Bears. He's very knowledgeable, and that kind of gives them that edge in enthralling people because they see him as this person as like he knows what he's talking about, or he's he seems mystical enough to be like enthralling. Like it's you want to hear what he's saying, even though you might not necessarily understand what he's saying. Um, Same thing goes with aggression. I feel like with aggression though, I would take it in a different way, where instead of using words or whatever have you, he might give them a drug like peyote or something like that, where he'd be like, hey, try this out. And that might mess with people's minds and give them that aggression. Um, and it doesn't, like, again, with the flavoring of things, it doesn't always have to be like with the first two examples, Thriller and I've already forgotten
Old
which
West.
one you had, Old West. Where they're speaking and causing these actions to happen. You could use a sort of a little, like, it's not really an item. You could just say, hey, smoke a peace pipe with me, and that causes the aggression or whatever have you. Like, he could put, instead of the peyote, he laces it with something else, and that causes the aggression. Or we could even say that he himself smokes it and then blows it in the face of someone, and they
That's pretty
inhale
cool.
it, and that causes the aggression. I already touched on understanding and premonition. Same thing with confounding. He's always out and about doing things, so he has to have these certain set of skills to survive out there. So when he's going out on his spiritual quest alone, like he never knows when he's gonna need to swim across a big like river or something, or have these survival skills for killing a wild animal and then harvesting its meat or whatever have you. So that goes with confounding. One day he might need to be able to swim really good. The other day he might need to be really good at farming animals, killing animals, or even farming like from the ground, like crops or whatever have you. And that goes with that mysterious side. He always gets his insights from his gods when he communes with them, when he smokes that peyote or eats it or whatever have you. Again, I'm not a drug expert. Um, and his skills, these are pretty straightforward. Like public speaking makes sense. After he communes with the spirits, he'll go to the tribes people and talk about what he's gleaned from them. Persuading also just goes hand to hand with that. People want to know what he's gleaned from these spirits, and they want to know, like, what he knows. So, it'd be very easy for him to persuade people into believing what he's saying. What else we got here? Resisting interrogation, again, makes sense. Let's say he's getting captured by the white man or whatever have you, or he has been captured by the white man many times before, and he's grown accustomed to resisting their attempts to like figure out how he's communing with the gods or whatever have you. Um, and the other stuff again makes sense, like stealth. He had to use stealth to get out of those situations. He has to use stealth when he's out in nature to avoid like a deadly predator or whatever have you. Um, and initiative perception, same thing. Like he's usually used to being in these like dangerous situations where he needs to have to jump on things, so he's quick to be initiative, or quick to get things going. And perception goes with the understanding sort of facet, where he's been around so much stuff, from traveling the countryside, um, and that he can basically look at a situation and see things, and that people normally wouldn't. And maybe he's on the peyote at the time. Who knows? Maybe that heightens his sense of perception. I don't know exactly what peyote does, but again, we could flavor as such that he's always mildly high on something, and that gives him a sort of elevated sense of consciousness. So he's always more aware than most people.
That's pretty cool. I
Um,
like that.
and just going piggybacking off what Anthony did with the like the items that he has on the sheet, his equipment. So like a weather worn Bible wouldn't be a weather worn Bible because that doesn't make any damn sense. He would have like scriptures that he's written, like he communes with the gods or whatever have you, and then he writes down what he learns, and it's almost like a Bible in that sense that it's godly words, but they're his words. And that could be an asset to persuasion or whatever have you. Like, look, I learned this from the gods. Like, you're gonna go against God's words, and like the arcane amulet could be like anything. Like, it could be like he runs a bear, so he keeps a bear's paw, like on his belt or whatever have you. And it's like a lucky rabbit's foot, but it's a bear paw, it's bear claw. Um, yeah, I feel like that touched on. Oh, one thing I see on here, he has a taser as one of his weapons. So a taser for this guy, this is historical. There's no electronics or whatever have you. And I literally just saw that, so I literally just came up with this. He could maybe keep like he knows like plants and nature and stuff. So he knows of this one particular cactus that has like a sort of paralysis effect to it. Like if you prick someone with the needle of it, right, you get sort of, shocked for a moment. So he keeps a small like head of the cactus on a rope or something, and that gives that taser range. So you hit somebody with it, and there you go, boom, historical taser.
You've been living in Arizona too long.
That's awesome.
But yeah, I think I touched on that pretty well. I think that's a pretty good flavoring of a mysterious speaker who makes prophecy in a historical setting.
Nice. All right, and last but not least, I roll a big fat 1. Hard
Sci-fi.
Okay, you know what? That's kind of easy. Yeah. So the first thing I would do is, okay, he's a mysterious speaker who makes prophecy. I would actually probably turn Simon into an assassin or like a covert operative, and he's got most of his abilities come through cybernetic enhancements. So his enthrall ability would be his ability to modulate his voice at a specific frequency. And, and maybe when he looks people in their eyes, there's a flashing rhythm or something that his cybernetic eyes do, so he could hypnotize people and get their attention. As far as his aggression ability, again, same thing. He may be able to emit a frequency at a specific wavelength that messes with the pineal gland, causing people to become aggressive, make you deal in your more baseline feelings. Understanding and premonition, I'm going to put those two together. And it's not so much that he has premonition ability, but what he has is the ability to cognitively predict trends. So he takes information, in his brain, parts of his brain, it's like a supercomputer, so he can, extrapolate, forward, to what could possibly be. And the same thing with the premonition, he can, basically extrapolate out, an idea of what, a person might do or what they may, their tendencies are. The understanding on the other side is just that. That's where he can, look into, behavioral things and stuff like that, or, given enough time to look over something, he can figure it out. So, that's where that comes in. I would reflavor his, his worn leather coat, trench coat. It's a ballistic trench coat, so that's where he gets a little bit of armor from. The weather worn Bible, yeah, he does carry it, but it's actually, a disguised computer, or tablet of some sort, where he can download information or, tap into the web. But, to everyone else, it's just a Bible.
That's cool.
His mysterious arcane amulet would probably be some sort of drive. I would think it'd be like a flash drive or something like that he could link into a system, and that will probably be, the catalyst for his confounding ability, because that's where he literally downloads the ability he needs
I need to know
at that
this.
time. Exactly. He download, and maybe that device is like, always connected to the matrix, if you will. Um, his taser, you know, it's probably just that. He probably has like the taser darts in his finger, where it just like shoots him off his finger. Um, and yeah, just sitting here thinking about it, we could say he was part of a special program, the stun program, and it means sentient tactical units of nullification and neutralization. And and that's the kind of stuff that, that's what that inspired when I, to get hard sci-fi, and how I would explain the abilities of that particular character.
I mean, I think it's actually this is a beautiful exercise because it shows you that we took four different genres, the same exact character sheet, and came up with four distinctive different type of characters. You know, I think a lot of people harp on what's on the sheet instead of what's in your mind and what's your imagination capable of doing. And this was a great exercise to show you that the sheet is and the stats are one thing, but it's all about using your imagination and building a story.
Right. And I'll say this, to the world at large who's gonna, partake of this as well. Um, I've had to do this on more than one occasion just for making pre-gens for, for different games that I'm gonna run. Or a friend of ours asked me to create the Avengers for him, because he wanted to do an adventure based on what happened after, Infinity War. And, I have to pull it up. Maybe I'll post it for you guys. But I think it's a masterpiece. I made Captain America, and I made Captain America as a speaker, not a warrior, not an explorer, not, a speaker. And, that character was totally and utterly bad. Boop. Okay. I mean, literally, to me, it was a masterpiece. It was probably one of the best characters I ever did. But it was able, thinking about Captain America and the type of, inspirational type of person he was. And still, by his focus, by the foci I used, he still had all of his Captain America combat abilities, but it was a speaker. And it was totally and utterly cool. So again, don't think that just because you're playing an adept or a speaker that they have to be, weak or non-physical or non-combative, because you can build that into the character, just by understanding what kind of story you want to tell and how you want those aggression or those abilities to manifest.
I have
And
another example.
vice versa.
Just today, I received a tweet by a member on the server saying that their first experience was playing my John Carpenter's The Thing game, and they played a husky. They played a dog, and they were mentioning how prior to that game they've never had someone tell them, hey, you could be what you want. We'll build this character for you. If you want to be the dog, if you want to play a dog, that's fine. We actually sat down and we came up with surprisingly like 5 or 6 different sentences for this dog, for this husky, and they all worked.
Mm-hmm.
So it's basically how you want to flavor it, and she actually didn't say a word the entire game, and was barking and yelping the entire game, and it still worked. It worked awesomely. Everyone had a good time. It had the flavor of a dog.
I was there. I was there. It was awesome.
Yeah, and and it was a little creativity goes a long way. And I know a lot of people. A lot of people don't realize that no matter what they choose for their character, it can be built.
Most
Right.
definitely.
I think I just expand that a little bit. Uh, your character has a sentence, and the sentence can be tweaked and modified for your character's flavor. Uh, just like I mentioned about, you don't have to say no. When depending on the genre, you can change whether it is actually speaker or street preacher, uh, like I mentioned. But also, and I've done this for a few, including my upcoming bug hunt game, is that we have makes prophecy right here. Uh, I described a spy character. You could change that to makes prophecy as a disguise.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I have in my bug hunt game, I have a person who's a like a field medic. Now, looking through all the Cypher System foci, the only one that fits was Works Miracles, which, if you read it at its core description, yes, it's a healer, but it's more of a magical healer. So I changed it to Works Miracles with medicine.
I seem to have lost everything.
Um, it's always gonna be what you want in your mind as opposed to what's on the sheet. What's on the sheet is just what you can, as mechanics go, what you can do, but the actual soul and flavor of the character come from you and your mind.
Right. And if I may just say one final thing, because Al, you did a awesome summation of of everything that we just did here. And that's the whole thing, people. I think, Al said it best. You got to really open your mind to those possibilities. There's no ability on the character sheet uh, that will limit you to a genre or whatever. And I was just explaining this to somebody, and then I'm going to shut up. But it's like with the adept, people looked at the onslaught ability and like, well, how do you do that in a modern setting or something like that? And I really, real simple. I gave the character a gun. That was onslaught.
Moira
You
Bennett.
know? Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
Literally, that's what I did. Though I gave them a gun for it to reflect that. We talked about it before. Real quick, just so you guys get it. We said like a fire step. We gave the character, and one idea we gave them parkour, and another setting. They had a limited range teleportation device, and another genre they would have. Or maybe a portal ability. Who knows? But the
In
thing
one
is,
game we gave them four step. They had hydraulic boots that
yeah,
allowed them. I forgot what game it was, but
yeah. But see, that's what I'm saying. So that's what I mean, people. Don't let the ability or the idea from where it's initially, born, don't let that limit you because it's all expansive. It's all grows from within. And I think these guys here are perfect examples of showing you that. We all took the same character, we all had the same abilities, but hey, they all came from different places.
I mean, I know people tend to harp on the wording. That's the raw text that's in a book, but the wording is irrelevant. It's how you flavor it to fit whatever game you're running, and that's what the Cypher system is. The Cypher system is all these interchangeable parts that are meant to be reflavored and changed. It's not a hard coded game system. It's meant to be played with. It's meant to be adapted to fit.
Cypher System is about the narrative, is about the story, and however you want it. And it's so people tell your story. Don't worry about mechanics. Don't worry about the raw, and just literally, get in there and have fun. That's what it really boils down to. Because, I mean, I would have played any version of that character we just did. Any version. If we were playing a historical game and I ended up with ancient.
If I had to pick a winner, though, Al, I want to play the Indian chief with the peyote. I'm just calling it like I see it. If I had to pick a winner,
just
Just to reword how you guys said it a little bit is narrate how that character in that setting is accomplishing the end goal.
right.
Is what it comes down to. And just because you brought up the Moira Bennett being the adept with the gun is the way you explain that is, yes, you could say rules as written. Guns are a speed roll, but onslaught is an intellect roll. What it means is she knows where to shoot,
Exactly.
as opposed to being the quickest on the draw.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that was the whole point. Everybody, um, as I said, Al, if you handed me, you know, runs with bears, at a table and told me to play this guy, I'm not gonna have one complaint, or the street preacher, or the old West guy. Like I said, and you guys already know that I could have fun with him in a sci-fi setting.
Mhm.
So, that being said, I think we've come to the end of this particular video as well. Um, guys, don't limit yourself. Tell your story, but most of all, have fun.
Most definitely. And yeah, thank you all for watching. It's been a pleasure, everyone. Stephen, Dean, Anthony, we always have great discussions. I love talking with you guys, and hopefully you watchers enjoyed our talk as well. And yeah, just again, don't limit yourself. Have fun, and from us at the CU, we will see you later.
Yeah.
Oh, and one last thing. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, and we'll have a link to the character we discussed in the description down below. So if you want to see the character, you can see it. And yeah, sorry about that delayed, but see you later. Take it easy.